This video brought to you by jadedpainting.com. If you need your miniatures painted to a tabletop standard, check out jadedpainting.com. Hey everyone, welcome back to part 2 of this painting tutorial. As always, my name is Jay, and I'll be showing you how I painted this Vulkan Heston model from the Salamander army. I started in all the metallic areas of the model with a base coat of Lead Belcher. Lead Belcher does a really nice job of covering these dark colors, and for this I just focused on the grenades and the vents and just any of the metallic areas that you'd want to be metallic. There weren't that many on this model. I just went with a couple of the symbols. But as always, just make sure you have a nice even coat before proceeding to the next step. And of course I painted a couple parts of his gun with Lead Belcher. And here I am painting all the vents. And then I gave all these areas a shading with Null and Oil. If you want the guns and metallic areas to look slightly dirty, I recommend a 1-to-1 mix of Agrex Earthshade and Null and Oil. I just wanted them to look a little bit more pristine, so I just gave them a Null and Oil shading. And if you're unhappy with the depth of color, feel free to do a second one. Just let the first one completely dry before proceeding to the second one. This non-oil will give a lot of nice depth to the metallic areas. And then when the shade was completely dry, I gave all of them a highlight with Iron Breaker. Iron Breaker is the first layer color associated with Lead Belcher, and it will just give a nice contrast. That's basically where I stopped with metallic areas. If you want to go a little further, feel free to use Rune Fang Steel. I was just happy with the metallics after that step. And then I did all the gold areas of the model. I base coated them with Balthazar Gold. Once again, as the previous metallics, it does a great job of going over them, but just make sure you have nice even coverage before proceeding to the shading. Also, make sure to take your time so you don't accidentally get the gold color in any of the areas you don't want. Some of the details on this model are a bit fine. And I painted his mohawk on his helmet and some of the symbols with the Balthazar Gold. I really like the way the flames actually turned out using the gold. It turned out quite nicely, especially on the shins and chest, as well as all the perimeter of his shield on his arm and the edges of his helmet. I also painted the symbols on his backpack using Balthazar Gold. And when the base coat was dry, I once again gave a Null and Oil shading. And as always, you can give an Agrex Earthshade Null and Oil shade if you want to make it look slightly older and worn out. I wanted to look a little more pristine since he's an HQ, and his armor just makes him look really nice, so I just went with Null and Oil. And when that shade was completely dry, I went and did the first highlight, leaving only the recesses, the shade, with Gehenna's Gold. Gehenna's Gold is a really nice, rich, warm gold color, and it does a great job going over the base color, and it just gives a little bit of warmth to all these areas. It looks really nice when it dries. I basically used an overbrush technique and an edge highlight, depending on which area I was doing the highlight on. And when doing these flames, I left the lower parts of the flames the shaded gold, and then I gave the Gehenna's Gold highlight to the higher parts. And finally, then I started on the browns, just taking a break from the gold while it was drying. And I painted the brown areas with Mornfang Brown, and then went right back to the gold areas by giving an edge highlight to them with Auric Armor Gold, which is a really nice bright yellowish gold, and I just gave it to the areas in which the light source was hitting that you really want to shine very nice when the light source hits the model. So I gave it to the top of the model, top of the flames, top of the helmets, and just anywhere you really want to stand out. And then I gave an Egrex Earthshade to the brown areas that were part of the purity seals, just to give them a worn out appearance and to give them a little differentiation. And the next I used Gray Liner, which is a great dark matte gray from Reaper, and I used that on all the symbols and to create the pattern of rock on the inside of his cape. And then I started on the lava and flame effects on the model. I did the same thing throughout the entire thing. I started by base coating all these areas and creating the lava pattern with Mephiston Red, the really nice dark red color, which once again will give really great coverage over these areas. I did this with the lava and the flames, and as you see here, I'm just working by painting very thin lines on the cape, which will start the lava pattern around the gray rocks that I painted in the previous step. And what I really like to do with my flames is just start with a really dark red and then work my way up to yellow by just doing repeated highlights and going a little bit higher each step and a little bit away from the recesses each step. So then after the first red is dry, I then did Evil Sunz Scarlet. As I just mentioned, you don't go as far into the recesses, and you also go a little bit higher on the flames with each progressing step, which you can see here I'm doing with the Evil Sunz Scarlet. As you see, I'm just building some contrast a little bit at a time, and I'm going a little bit by color and color. And when I'm finished, by the way, I should mention that I also did the inside symbol with Gray Liner as well, because I will not be showing that later. And then next I continue with the reds by just going with Wild Rider Red, the third color of red from Citadel that is associated with Mephiston Red. After that I followed it by just going, as I said, a little bit higher and just less inside the recesses. And as you can see, a nice contrast started being built up and some gradient on the flames and the lava. And then I did a 1-to-1 mix of Wild Rider Red and Flash Gets Yellow, which produces a intermediate color orange. And I just kept repeating the step a little bit at a time. And as you can see, the lava is already really starting to build up and look really nice, and the flame is starting to look really characteristic of an actual flame. Then what I did, I just repeated the step once again with a 1-to-2 mix, just adding a little bit more Flash Gets Yellow into the mix and doing about a 1-to-2 ratio of Wild Rider Red and Flash Gets Yellow. As you see, just working my way up the flames. And finally, I then just the very tips with Flash Gets Yellow and the very inside of the lava with Flash Gets Yellow. And then this produces a really nice realistic looking flame and lava appearance. And then I did the symbol with Gray Liner. And then finally I worked on the white symbols of the model using white scars, just getting a nice foundation on there. And then I gave them a watered down non-oil shading after this. That will give a little bit of characteristic to the white areas. I hate leaving white areas with just white. It ends up making them look really flat. And then after the non-oil shading, which I'm showing here, I just did a nice slight highlight of these white areas once again with white scars. I also did this process on the staff, it should be shown, which you'll be seeing in a second. And that's it. You now know how I painted up this Vulkan Heston model for the Salamander army. In the end, it turned out really nicely. I really love the way it looked. And just because you see that the staff, I just did the same steps on the body as I did on the staff, repeating with the same gradient, and then working on Gray Liner at the bottom of the staff. And then for him, I did a lava base using the same exact color combination as I did on his cloak and his staff and the flame. So in the end, I think it looks really cool, and he'll be awesome on the tabletop, leading many Salamander armies. So thank you very much for watching this tutorial. Please like the video, comment in the comment section down below, and subscribe to my channel if you already haven't done so. It really does help a lot. And until next time, this is Jay saying, happy painting, everyone.